Hi, everybody. It's T Falcon Napier. Welcome to the Oracle of the Self. This is coaching session, I do believe, number 48.
Wow.
I have 7.
Yeah, 40. No, I think I put up 47 last time around. Maybe we'll go to the YouTube channel and see, but I'm pretty sure I'm up to 48. Anyway, um, who knows? It's 48 out of 480, so who knows? We're going to continue doing this. But anyway, I sent you guys the link. You filled it out. You should have received your result directly from the ChangeGrid system within a matter of a few minutes. Did you all receive your results?
Yes, I haven't opened it though.
Yes.
Lovely, lovely. Now your results came to you in the form of a report, and there's two other extraneous documents that for some reason it's automatically including. We have chatted with the developers about simplifying the email people receive, and we'll get around to doing that. But quite candidly, it's not top on the list right now. So for now, one of those documents that was attached to your email is the one we care about, and it's the one that's got your results in it. The other two, I don't know, did it include a quick reference guide? And see, I don't get it because I'm already in the system as an administrator. I don't get those kinds of emails. I don't get those kinds of attachments. So
I didn't
I don't know what
I
people
got 2
receive.
attachments. I got the guide and my grid.
Yeah, I did not get
My
one.
profile.
I got the Dear Tom Walthall, thank you for completing ChangeWorks
Yeah, yeah.
profile, and someone will follow up. But that's
No, you hit the here. See where it says here? You'll get your profile here. Press where it says here.
Yeah.
That's
well,
okay.
I thought I'd get another email.
Nope, that's a link. You
Yeah.
thought
That's a
wrong.
link to it so you can download it. Yeah, because these are, I don't know if you guys understand that when we're doing large group profiling, the profiles can be literally thousands of pages long, and it becomes impossible to email it as an attachment. So instead, the system is set up so that you receive an email that has a link so that you download it directly from the ChangeWorks system to your local computer. Obviously, it's not thousands of pages, but it's just an individual grid. But even if right now, if I ran the group profile just with the 8 respondents that we invited to do this, I can tell you it ends up being 100 pages long.
Oh,
So,
Wow.
there's a lot of data. And by the way, then if I run the statistical analysis of it, that's another 20 some odd pages. So there's a whole lot the system was built to do. We're just using its more entry level kinds of capabilities. So doing a simple group profile, I want you guys to be able to use your personal ChangeGrid section and on and on. So anyway, I'm going to show you the results for the profile, but I want to just call one thing to your attention. One of the results shows that you guys don't know how to access the online system. And
yeah.
so I want you to know, if nothing else, I want you to get this out of today's program. If you go to changeworksystem.com, you end up on this page you're looking at right now, right? And so as you are looking through this page, notice that there is, all kinds of stuff that you may or may not want to click upon. But I care about this one right here, system access, or maybe this band down here that's got the cogs that says access your ChangeWorks system account. You can click on either one of those, but what it does now is it's taking you into, if you will, the actual ChangeWorks engine that does that. And you have to log in. You all have a username. You all have a password. Your username is your first name and last name, all lowercase, no spaces, no punctuation. That's what your username is. And your password is password until you choose to change it. So you guys should all, I don't think I'm mistaken. I think all of you guys have an online account access. Wow, T. Wall Williams keeps appearing and disappearing. So, okay, anyway, so I would like you to test that later on today and see, can you log in or are you able to do this? If you can do this, then I can do another thing, which is how to build and create your own ChangeWorks system. So there's T's back. There you are. Hey, T, we're kind of coming and going. And still can't hear you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and log in as the user that created this profile we're looking at. So I created it under the Oracle of the Self's account, and so that's why that's there. Now, from the dashboard, I can certainly go and look at those profiles, but I just want to quickly show you that, guys. So when you log in under dashboard, the very first thing, or it could even be the only thing you will see, is my personal change grid. And if you click on that, that's where you can start to plot your own change grids, et cetera. And I know we've walked through this before, and we'll certainly walk through it as many times as we need to for all of you guys to become comfortable doing it. But it's as simple as add an activity, view the change grid, save my work. It's like the personal change grid is a very simple tool. It is designed only for an individual to use for themselves. So if you were trying to use the ChangeWorks system with an individual client you have, you'd have to have one of the professional level licenses. You'd have to be a coach or a consultant or a master consultant to be able to access a lot of the other capabilities. But everybody can create their own personal change grid. And that's what we want you to use it. You can use this. Oh, good. All right. So T's chatting to me that her audio is not working. So, okay. So if you had questions, just chat them over, T, and I'll be happy to address them. So anyway, everyone has a My Personal Change Grid, and you could use this as your to-do list. You could use this as just an ongoing journaling of what you've got on your plate. So you can take things off of it, add things to it, look at your change grid. You can change your responses anytime you want. So you can use it as a little bit of a progress monitoring, a progress planning kind of tool. So there's lots of ways you can do this, but I need to make sure you guys know how to access your personal change grid. So again, you just go to changeworksystem.com. You'll click on System Access in one of the two places it's sitting, and under Dashboard, the very first thing or only thing you will see is My Personal Change Grid. If you have professional licensing to it, then you can create a profile. In creating a profile, we're either creating a profile for, if you look here, an individual client, that is to say, or a group client, depending on if we're functioning as a coach consultant or a master consultant. That's what these things are all about. There's some other things that come into play in that, but that's not for us to worry about today. Today, what we're really doing is just viewing the profiles. And the profile that we're going to be viewing is this 2024 readiness and engagement profile we put together. Its type was group, just so you're seeing how this all comes together. So it tells me the date it was created, the last time someone completed it, and the number of responses. So actually, someone looks like they filled it out today. So, or after midnight. So we've got these 8 responses we can look at. And I've got lots of different actions I can take. Like I said, for those who haven't been able to fill it out, I'll go ahead and get the link. All right, there's the link. So let me copy that. And then let me paste that over or chat that over to everybody. So right there it is. If you've not had the opportunity to do so, that is the link to this profile. Do feel free to fill it out. Now, there's lots of other things I can do with it. The important one for us today is we want to view this change grid. Now, because all of you know one another, I did not bother masking people's names. No one's plotting in any spot that's anything beyond interesting. There's not, it's not showing a lot of issues at the group level or at the individual
That's
level.
a relief.
Right. So, but there's things that are worth talking about, and this is going to get more and more into the power of the change grid. So, what I can do is I can say I want to look at all activities, and then I can choose just one of the respondents, see how it all looks just for you. So, I'm happy to do that if you would like me to make some comments about your personal change grid, or what is more valuable to the professional, me in this case, when it comes to doing a group profile, is to look at particular activities. Because based on how the population is plotting about a given activity, that's telling me what type and level of support you guys need in order to get you on track, keep you on track, and ultimately have you reach the desired location, the desired ratings on the change grid. So, yeah. So remember, the change grid is designed to answer 4 very specific questions. Those 4 questions are: number 1, how ready is this person to do that particular activity? Or how ready are, if you're using this personally, how ready are you to do this thing that you've chosen to look at? The second thing is, how engaged are you in doing it? So just because you can do something doesn't mean you feel like doing it. So how engaged are you in actually doing it? The third question is, how likely are you to actually follow through and get the stuff done? And the fourth question is, what type and level of support are you going to need? Well, that last question is the one that's central to the work that all of us may be doing in our life as human development professionals. Okay, so Oracle itself, you're doing it for yourself and maybe for a peer, but yeah, otherwise that. So I think it's quite more interesting to take a look at how you guys are plotting as a group about a particular activity. So let's start by looking at that. So I'm going to choose activity number 1, walking the path of self-discovery effectively when I'm exploring situations. So I choose just that activity, but I want to look at everybody. Now, everybody, is always a good way to start. But let's say that as you're looking at it, you go like, wow, these people are always plotting together, and these people are always plotting together, and these two are always at odds with one another. I could just select specific individuals within the population if I'm trying to look at some sort of dynamic. And also inside of creating a ChangeWorks profile for groups, I can also have demographic questions and I can have free text questions. So I could slice and dice everybody by whatever the demographic profile happens to be. I chose not to do that for this particular profile. But anyway, so this is all y'all. And we're looking at activity number 1. We click on view the change grid and it appears. Now, we've gone through this before, but I think it's something we need to repeat several times. I want you to make sure you understand what it is that you're looking at. So yeah, you know the change grid, fine. But this little legend in the upper right corner is what we use to report or to display all 4 responses on a 2-dimensional diagram. And so this is how we've done that. So yeah, your location is the answers you gave for perceived ability and perceived challenge. Fine. So A and C we know, but you also answered size and importance. So how is size communicated to us when we're looking at a change grid? You'll notice up here in the legend that size right there is going to be reflected by a hollow, an empty shape, a circle, a triangle, or a diamond. Now, if you said that it is something that of great size, that shape will be red, indicating large size. This orangey yellow, moderate size, and green would be small size. The circle is your actual answer. The triangle is what the average rating was. And the diamond is what the ideal location is.
Oh,
Okay, so we're actually looking at 4 dimensions. So as you see right here, again, we're only looking at size right now, so only the outline of an otherwise empty sort of shape. So you can see here that our ideal location, we said you should have an ability of 10 and a challenge of an 8. You should be a solid analytical driver when it comes to doing something like walking the path of self-discovery, because it is a process. There is a structure to it. You do want to follow that structure. And so the analytical driver energy is the one that is really most supportive of people doing that. We also want you to have a certain freedom around doing it. And so that's why we chose if we look at tertiary energy, the expressive analytical driver. So yeah, do the analysis, really think it all through. We want people to really do that, but we'd like them to be thinking in a more upgrid, well, relatively obviously, but a more spirited, a more involved kind of thing. That's how people walk the path most effectively. So there is an anticipation, there is a desire to have that outcome be revealed to them. So we say that's the ideal location. You'll notice that the color of the shape enclosing that, the diamond, is yellow, indicating that ideally we think you should view this as being of moderate size. Okay,
Hey,
we're then,
T,
yeah. Mhm.
so that's as I looked at that, I saw it more as behavioral than analytical. So
All right.
the desired plotting that you just mentioned caught my attention on that.
And so you might want to be even more analytical, depending on the activity list and the population you're exploring. You may say, well, rather than being an 8, or rather a 10 and 8, I think these people need to be an 11 on their ability, and they don't need it to be an 8, just a 7 or even a 6. So what I'm doing is saying, like, in that particular goal of focusing on behaviors, perhaps, because I'm being even more analytical, the energy of the desired location would have shifted in the even more analytical direction. So I would have put it down here perhaps, or over here somewhere. And it may very well be that people say, well, 10 and 8 is fine, but I want my people to really know how to walk that path of self-discovery well. I want them to know it like the back of their hand, in which case we might have said, I want them to be an 11-8, because I'm still saying there is a challenge that we want you to view as being high enough that you're really paying attention to what's going on. All right, so again, the choice of an ideal location is all about analyzing the ideal combination of energies that someone should be experiencing to help them do this most naturally, most comfortably. It's not dictated by the words in the activity, but the intention behind that activity. Okay, thoughts? Did that help, Chris? Or are there, Tim?
Yeah, it's just that I was focusing on the word walking, and
Yes.
me that denoted action as opposed
Mhm.
to cognitive.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's
It's
what I was
interesting though,
thinking.
because while you are walking, yeah, and maybe you should actually go out there and walk while you're walking the path. Ultimately, it really is making sure that this oracle of the self you have, it's supposed to be your best friend inside of your head, you know, um, you are helping them walk along this metaphorical path, and help them to focus on what each one of the steps of the path is really trying to help them do, whether it's the current situation, desired situation, obstacle solutions, whatever, where we happen to be on that. And so I think you're absolutely right. It is a mechanical procedural sort of a thing, which is best done by an analytical driver. And it's also a kind of just a brain puzzle, a little process, a little, recipe we might follow in our own head, in which case it's still an analytical driver. So we're in good shape. Question is how much command you want them to have. You want 10, 11? I don't know if you want a 12. 12 is a distortion of reality. So, all right, anyway, this is the ideal location based on what we figured out beforehand. Notice the triangle. The triangle is the average location. So if I took all y'all, all 8 of you, is it 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, all 8 of you, and I averaged out your responses, that's where you'd end up. What's very important to know is that when you are looking at a small group profile, and that's what this is, the average location doesn't represent anybody. Nobody is there. None of you are there. But if I'm trying to go like, well, how can I have the best impact on the group as a whole to move this triangle so it's sitting on top of that diamond? Well, it would be by doing something to increase your perceived ability more than anything else. If I can increase the group's perceived ability, then we're going to watch this triangle move in the direction of the diamond, if not lay atop it, because everybody would have their perceived ability increased along the way. All right, that's a lot more explanation than I was planning on giving, but if you guys want to know how do we use this, that's how we use it. And so all of you are represented by an alpha character. I'll make it easy for you. As I said, I didn't see any real reason to have to, privatize this, or we can anonymize a group report. So here you are. You can figure out which one of these you are letter wise, and you're going to be that letter on all the grids that we're going to be looking at. Now, anytime the population is 26 people or less, you're going to see alpha characters representing each person. But the moment there's 27 people, all the names vanish. And what you see is simply a circle with a number inside of it telling us how many people in the entire population plotted on that particular place on the change grid. So yeah, so this whole idea about keeping things nice and private only applies to a certain way anyway. Okay, so that's your orientation as far as size goes. The color inside of the shape is a reflection of the importance rating. So it's the color of the number or the color of the alpha character tells us that if it's red, you gave it a high importance. So we want you to view this task as being highly important. That's why the diamond is filled with red. We do know that the average one amongst you does consider it to be high importance. And so that's why the average location is filled with red. And even if I just glance at all 8 of your letters, all of you gave individual responses that indicated the importance here was high. Okay, whether we see yellows or greens, we'd know that might mean moderate, that might be low. All right, so with all that, do you guys understand a little bit more what you're actually looking at?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So
Yeah.
when I
Yeah,
look
but-
at this one, I'm going to throw gifted questions to you guys. So just remember the activity right now is walking the path of self-discovery effectively when exploring situations. When I look at this change grid, I see that we've got a wide variety of responses, but they're all congregating in a general area of the change grid. You know, you're all in power, for example. And you are all at least having intentions to do it, or being fully engaged in doing it, or getting out there, killing it, executing on that particular activity. So now it might be curious to know who individuals E and G, so Linda and Tom, they're more in the intention band right now than they are in the, they're in the intention band instead of the engagement band. Well, it may very well be because they both reported their ability as an 8. And we have a couple that gave themselves 9 and a bunch that gave themselves 10s. Well, it may be that part of this, I'll describe it as hesitation, but all I'm really saying is that right now they're still observing this. Keep in mind, they're inside their green circle, right? So we know these two are aware of what's going on. They're noticing what's going on, but they may not have chosen yet to step outside of that green circle and actually play with it, apply it, really use the thing. So
Yeah.
that might be part of why they're plotting where they happen to be on here, in which case the remedy is to do 2 things. Yeah, I can increase their ability, but I also need to help them increase the challenge, right? If all I do for E and G is just do something to increase their ability, they're going to end up here. You see where I'm at? I want them to end up here. So I not only have to increase their perceived ability, simultaneously, I need to get them to be using the tool, applying the tool, seeing its value so that they can see that there is some challenge to it. It is kind of interesting to do that. Yeah. All right. Does that make sense? You guys with me?
Absolutely.
More
Yeah.
sense than when I filled this out.
Yeah. And this is the whole thing. We want you to kind of know that while it may seem on the surface, we're only asking people for very generalized questions with very wide ranges available for them to report. We can extract very specific data from where they have ended up. Because the subtleties and nuances are what we really are looking at here. Otherwise, can you imagine if I was only looking at, oh, by the way, I can change the background layer when you're doing it live online. Let's say I just want to look at the response states. Can you imagine if the only thing I understood was power and I said, well, you're all in power, so this is good.
Yeah.
I mean, was I really all that helpful? when I say, like, well, you're all in power. Okay. Or what if I said, well, you know, it's good to have some drive around here. So let's look at people's role. No, role. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of a leader, advocate, or I really wanted style. Yeah. So like you're all out grid. Yay, good for you. Okay. So it's in looking at these more generalized models, whether it's the 5 levels of productive tension or these 4 different personality types that we're using more as variations on the energy of the person. I don't think that you can get enough information from looking at such a generalized plotting. You with me on this? It's like, you know, I want you to appreciate the reason why all these layers exist is because we can't do the work we really need to do just based on, oh, well, you're all in power. Oh, you're all drivers. Yay, my job is done. You know, thoughts about that?
Hmm.
All right. Well, yeah.
No, I get it. I get it. But I think, I don't know. Tom was a little disappointed where he charted, but
Oh, there is no disappointment in anywhere.
well, I think it's really you. I think it means you think about what you're doing. I mean, we're learning this, and he's very analytical. He really pays attention to things. He
Sure.
doesn't react.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a great place for you to be, that he's still in the, and it's true. I watch him and he is in the green circle. He is
Yeah,
taking.
yep. Well, and also I don't want you to think about the opposite, but what I'm going to say here is that keep in mind that another factor in this plotting here could very well be humility. It could very well be that someone already sees.
We're talking about Tom.
Well, I'm just saying, they might already say, hey, I think I know stuff, but the more I learn, the more I see that there's a lot to learn. And
Yeah.
so I'm just going to
Absolutely.
say right now, I am just, well, look where he's plotting. If we're going to make Tom the subject, I'm going to just look at layer 6 for a second. He's inside the green circle, but that analytical driver kind of leaned towards that. So yeah, he's curious about it. Yeah, he likes to figure it all out. Yeah, he sees a use to the whole thing, but he isn't out here, you know, conquering it all. There's nothing wrong with this location, and it's easy to understand if you go like, I wonder how many of the people plotting here think that they know 90% or, you know, what's 10 out of 12, 80 some odd percent of what there is to know about walking the path of self-discovery. I wonder if they walk it 100 times, if they would feel differently about it. And if they feel differently about it, is that likely to move them more in grid, a little more going, a little more humbled, or a little more out grid, going like, no, as it turns out, I do know all this stuff. So I've earned it. You know, keep in mind that the ChangeGrid was designed as and has always been used as a tool of conversation. So this isn't describing anything that is hard and fast about the person. This just happens to be how the respondent was viewing that particular activity at that particular moment in time. We get to understand the whole story by asking them to tell us about that. You know, how did you come to reach those? You know, so if Tom was in a coach kind of a situation with, I was saying like, okay, Tom, you rated your ability as an 8. Tell me how you came to that number, and he'd tell me. And you know, if he said something that was revealing, maybe I would say, all right, well, then we need to do this, or we could give this a try, or whatever the case may be. He might very well just say that I'm the kind of student who likes to finish the course before I go out there.
Right.
You know, and really do all that much. I had to laugh. I was watching there's a show in Britain and in Australia, I don't know where else it might be, called Taskmaster. Have you guys seen Taskmaster?
No.
Okay, Taskmaster, look it up. It's definitely on YouTube. But basically, they come up with these kind of mind puzzles or tasks that they want this set of celebrities to do. And the celebrities change around. So there's this personality element in the whole thing. But they're asked to do things and figure out the best way to do it. So this one I was watching most recently was this. There are 5 players on the task. The task says, The first person to touch the cow will be disqualified. The second person will take third place. The third person will take second place. The fourth person will be in last place, and the fifth person will win. So now you have to decide, are you going to touch it? You can't see the other players. It's all done, in isolation. You got to decide when to touch the cow, right? And so the funniest thing is this: one guy opens it up, he reads the first line, the first person to touch the cow, and he reaches out and touches the cow. And so he's immediately disqualified. All right. So I'm giving you that example just to say that this may very well be a reflection of people who want to read the instructions before touching the cow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's it. So there's a lot of reasons here. As a professional using the ChangeGrid, we don't guess when we're working with small groups or individuals. We ask.
Hey, T,
Yep. Go right ahead, Chris.
hey, quick question. What other things were happening for, I'm thinking about it from the tension aspect. Was there anything else going on that was, lack of a better term, manipulating the amount of tension? Because if everybody's just standing around the cow,
Yep.
is there anything else happening to make somebody just want to say, forget it, let me just go ahead and go and touch it? Or
No, there's nothing like that. Although, because it's kind of a game show, a personality-based game show, and celebrities are involved, there's a lot of banter that goes on, and there's a lot of predicting how the other person would do it based on what you know about them. But as far as the production team goes, visible to the audience, they're not doing anything other, because they haven't said anything. There's just this person who hands you an envelope and you read it, and what everyone reads is identical. Yeah, just check out some episodes. You'll get a real kick out of it. Some of them are very clever. Some of them are very puzzling. Yeah.
yeah, I was just thinking about what would make that person touch it first, having the instructions and not
I would say from
being willing
attention
to wait it
management,
out.
yeah, from the attention management perspective, you guys answer the question. Where do you think that individual was? He happens to be on the ChangeGrid if he immediately reached out and
See,
touched the cow.
Stress up top,
Upgrade.
upgrade.
But I have to ask first, the first question I would ask is, what do I win? Maybe he just thought it was a dumb task.
Oh, no, you'll have to watch a few of the episodes to kind of get the vibe of it. But I don't know if they win anything personally or if they're competing for a charity. A lot of those things are really more about bragging rights when you're looking at, like if you look at the British baking show that I love, nobody's winning any money. They win a trophy. And it kind of changes the overall vibe of the competition.
Trophies are good.
Yeah, it's really, yeah. So
It makes me think about in sales, a part of the old school training was when you present your offer, the next one speak loses. Remember that concept where
Yeah,
it's just silence, and whoever breaks the silence first loses in that interaction, so to speak.
Parents played that a lot.
yeah, and in fact, we would say to sales representatives, even in Master Stream, be comfortable with silence, because when you ask someone a question, the human mind pretty much has to answer it. The human mind is driven by questions, tormented by unanswered questions. So I was raised not to interrupt people when they're speaking. And even if they're speaking to themselves, I don't want to derail that. There's other things I could be doing in a sales situation. I can be observing body language, eye movements, to try to figure out, are they processing the information? Where are they in that information? But no, a great sales skill is to just become comfortable with silence. So. Yep. All right. So again, I'd like to go through this pile of things, but this is basically the same dynamic as your trainer, whatever. A lot of you are reporting the level of skill I would like you to have as far as a 10. Okay, I got a couple of 8s and a couple of 9s. There's more for us to go over when it comes to the path. So I'll encourage you guys to do that for yourself, but also encourage you to work with one another, try it with one another, to walk the path when they've got a question. Do it deliberately. If you got a friend who's perplexed about something, just say, well, let's do this little technique I just learned. Let's walk the path. Tell me about the current situation. What's your desired situation? You don't need to go into grand detail. You just keep the shape there: current situation, desired situation, obstacles, problems, feelings. Okay. So now we go to the next one, just a second. Final questions about this one? Yes, no? All right, so I'm just gonna uncheck that one. The 4 aspects of control, which is actually a deep dive into the green step or the desired situation on the change grid. Now, one thing I find very interesting is that while Tom might have reported an ability of 8 when it comes to walking the path, when it comes to doing this 4-quadrant thing, he's at the ideal location. So I think that in and of itself is interesting. And if he was my client, I'd be curious to know if the path seems more difficult, but the matrix seems easy. That would tell me it's some other part of the path that becomes more challenging or makes him want a greater level of ability or report an ability gap. There, you guys with me on that? But nevertheless, look, the average
Yeah.
person, dang close, dang close. Now, David, for reasons I'm going to have to explore with him. Is David on the call? No, but I think it's because David was fully licensed and supported before we started talking about that quadrant matrix. So if I said he's had more than a decade of experience using ChangeWorks successfully or tension management successfully without even knowing that those quadrants existed, that would be accurate. So it might very well be that he's reporting the lower level of ability, a 7, and the challenge of a 9, because it's not something that he grew up with in his exposure to ChangeWorks. And that, so, but yeah, I bring that up only because he's floating up there. And then D, who's D? Kathy, is Kathy on the call? Not sure. Not sure. There's a phone in there. But Kathy, again, reported ability of an 8, but the challenge is only a 6. Her ability to do it is greater than her challenge of doing it, which means she's figured it out. Keep in mind, she's also inside the green circle, and similar to the last one, I would say, I wonder if she's waiting for a particular situation to use it. I would be wondering if she's thinking about using it, but haven't integrated it yet. It may be, because Kathy's been around us for a very long time as well. It may be that she's just so used to not using it that she's kind of got 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the water about adding that layer to her needs analysis. Maybe she's got a different one. Again, it's a tool of conversation. I need to ask the person for the missing information. So 2 things there. If you're using this for the oracle of the self, which is what this, at least in theory, was designed as a series to do, you got to be asking yourself, why am I there? What am I waiting for? What you got to ask yourself these questions in order to really understand what that plotting is there. I know she's there for a logical reason, like you're all here for a logical reason. Based on the information you had available to you at the time you made this assessment, this is where you end up. It's all good. It's all good. Again, by average, I would need to do something to increase overall ability, because all these people reporting 10, they're not going to be harmed by being moved up to an 11. You know what I mean? So, but I can help these individuals by moving them up to at least the 10 I'd like them to be at. Yeah. All right. What else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. The other thing is that if it's a large group profile, we don't have the luxury of getting the missing information from the individuals. If I'm doing a profile of 1,000 people, now instead I'm looking at what are the trends, where are the concentrations of plottings, because I could research who plotted at a particular place, but what's the chances of me even knowing who these people are or how to reach them? It's like it becomes just an impractical kind of thing, but it does make you appreciate what large corporations have to do when it comes to training initiatives or any sort of enablement initiative. You can't customize it for every individual. You have to go, what one thing could I do that would have the maximum positive impact on the largest section of this population? And if it was just this, I would say this one can be left alone. Half the population or more than half the population is within 1 point of deviation from the ideal location. We're okay with this. What does that do to individuals A and D? And imagine for a moment that A and D represent 100 people each instead of just that individual, because of the large percentage of people plotting in a more acceptable kind of location, this activity might actually get neglected. Okay, thoughts about that, anybody? I know I'm talking from my job as a corporate trainer in that, but that's what we have to do.
Yeah, T, but that's why I like the demographic questions,
Yep.
because you can narrow it down, like
Yep.
depending based upon the demographic questions, and see if
That's right.
if that's something that's important to you, then you can just drill in and focus on it for that side, that part of the population.
Yeah, and we certainly do that. That's why the demographic questions are there, because it is interesting to slice and dice it, or it is interesting to say to the client, for X amount of dollars more, we can look at this at if it's a bank, for example, at the branch level. And we can tell you which branches are better positioned than others, which will tell us where, or help us tell you where you need to put your developmental dollars to help your organization as a whole. And then if I'm looking at that bank branch level, I gotta believe there's a strong likelihood that I'm going to see under 27 people. Or maybe I use an additional demographic question that says, at the bank level, are you a manager, a teller? I don't know what the different ranks are, almost all of you are vice presidents, so what are you? And then maybe then I can break it down and see the individual that happens to be plotting there, which would be great if they hired me to do individual coaching for key players inside the group. Now, again, that's really for the professionals. If you want to know how you can actually use the ChangeGrid to increase the value that you're providing to the client, and along the way increase your revenue stream, there are countless ways of using the ChangeGrid to make that happen. That's why, by the way, if I'm doing a large corporate client, I never charge for the first ChangeWorks profile. Let me repeat that. I never charge for the first ChangeWorks group profile. I don't. That's my most powerful marketing tool. That's the tool I need to be able to do the needs analysis, to tell them what they want. I need that result for me. And ultimately, yeah, I will turn it into something that will enhance their outcome as well.
Well, it's darned eye-opening. I wish we had this when I was working back at Crosswinds. It would have been phenomenal
Yep.
information here.
And again, because you're not judging the people. This is a snapshot of a psychological moment in time that the group of people were asked to explore. So this is really telling me something that's very much alive. And that means that if I look at this and I go, I'm going to make the following change, and then I make that change, I should be able to re-administer this exact same profile a week down the road, a month down the road, whatever, and see that progress has been made. So it's a great tool for actually showing them that your strategy is working.
Hey, T, what are your thoughts? Have you heard about the term assessment fatigue, survey fatigue within
Oh, yeah.
organizations? Because they're taking Grant and so many other surveys.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around that?
I have two thoughts around that. My first thought is
Okay.
that's why we need to keep the activity list short. By short, I don't mean a half a dozen. I mean short, like they could fill it out in 10 minutes flat. So we have to do that. While the ChangeGrid could do an activity list with 100 activities on it, do any of you want to fill out a 100 activity ChangeGrid? Anybody? I don't, and I made the thing. Okay, so I just don't think that it's realistic. I think literal fatigue, is going to be triggered for this individual profile. Making it more general, I do believe that when people are being bombarded by a variety of psychometric tools within a relatively short time period. And they're simply told to do them instead of being made aware of why they're being told to do them.
Right.
I think that's people just get tired of filling out stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's any different than when the doctors tell us, oh, we got to go have this test, that test. We all end up with test fatigue. It's like, no, I don't want to go to the lab again. No, when's enough already?
Right.
Yeah, yep.
I agree.
Yeah. T sharing that 75 items to 55 to 35, and even then it was way too much. So you got to break it up. Or what we do, honestly, if we're trying to do a large, let's say we're trying to do a large population and we don't really know where the needs are. We only know what a couple of people have told us a couple of the needs may be. But while we might benefit from those insights, we're going to suffer from their blind spots. We want to do something more comprehensive, in which case we would make the activity list as general as possible and try to confine the activity list to perhaps 12.5 activities. Yeah, you just got to be aware that fatigue's real. Attention spans are short. And again, you got to do the value. Like that's why we say to people, this is not a traditional psychometric tool. This is not going to tell us anything about who you are, what your values are. It's all it's going to do is tell us about how you happen to be responding to these particular activities at the point in time that you filled it out. And we're going to use that as a way to judge ourselves. How effective have we been, or how effective could we be in helping you to achieve the outcomes that you've explored? Yep. Okay. Anyway, that's a lot of information, but
Yeah, but I feel like applauding.
oh, well, I mean, I'm glad, we worked really hard to create a different tool. And I know we successfully did that. And, I know we're in that late autumn, early winter of the lifespan of this company. This is why I feel so much pressure right now to capture everything that we've been talking about for these decades into a form that other people can stumble across and learn from. I mean, can you imagine if the ChangeGrid just vanished altogether? I think that would be a loss.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so I got to do whatever I can do to get it into the form that can give it its own lifespan, its own eternity. And it's not about me. I mean, you guys know this. It's not about me. It's about the information. It's about these insights that we've been able to put together over all these years. So I might have been involved, but I've just gotten it started. I would hope that generations to come of people who understand tension management and use the ChangeGrid will take it to levels I could only dream of right now. When does it become one of these three-dimensional projections that come when we snap our fingers and wave our hand across when you watch sci-fi stuff, it's like, how do they always have these massive screens instantly available in front of them? I don't know. But maybe, just maybe, it'll happen someday. Okay, anyway, enough about that. Let's take a look at a couple more of these activities, and you can see where we're going. But you see the pattern. There's really nothing really blatantly strange. I found this one interesting. Keeping my relationships free of toxic negativity. View the ChangeGrid. Why, look at that. Everybody is between the green and the red circle. If I just go back to the composite ChangeGrid. By the way, when you do your personal ChangeGrids, you can do the same thing. You can always swap out the background image for whichever one you think helps you better focus on what's going on. But you're all actively engaged in doing this. We did say the ideal location is to be that guard, that centurion who's protecting you from all the people who might want to get into you. If you're with me. So again, this is about recognizing when people are toxic and keeping your world free of toxic negativity. You've got to be a really good centurion. You've got to be a really good keeper of the gate, if you will. On average, you guys are around a 9.9. I could give you the exact locations all the way down to its third place decimal, but you guys are a little bit further down grid than ideal. I want you to be right along that heart line. You're dropped down just a little bit. And so we're going to need to see if we can figure out what's causing that to happen. Now, the other thing I'd like to draw to your attention is that all y'all, that's the plural of y'all, those of you who aren't from the South might be mistaken. Notice that you all said this was a super important task. All the characters are red. Some of you thought it's a really big job to do that. That's why it's a red circle. Others among you said, no, it's only a moderate size issue, but it is very important for me to do. But over here in the middle, we have David Harrell, who said that his the importance is moderate, the size is moderate, his ability is moderate, and his the size, importance, ability, challenge is moderate as well. Now, I would say to you that if you were someone who had been working very hard at keeping your world free of toxic negativity, and you'd been able to do that for a certain extended period of time, I might say that this is an accurate plotting, or this is a great place for you to plot. You know what I mean? Because it's become part of the fiber of who you are and how you operate. The best way for you to deal with negativity is to detach, right?
Yeah.
So detach already. Maybe that means physically detached, but certainly means emotionally, intellectual, detached. Become an observer of the craziness around you. Become an observer of the toxicity. Now, so I can, if I was talking with David individually, that may very well be the case. Again, he's been using this stuff for decades. But for most people, I would say right now they're still in that cleanup mode. I would not be at all surprised to find out that all of you plotting here have one, if not several, toxic contributors around you somewhere in life that you either can't get rid of because it's not practical, or they're a member of the family or a member of the work team. So, you know, you're kind of stuck with certain things. Or is it a problem because of what else might be required to eliminate that toxicity from in there? Like, I know a lot of people made a New Year's resolution to eliminate watching bad news. Well, you can't find good news without
That's what
coming across
news
bad
is.
news. I mean,
Nobody
I'm just-
reports good news.
yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you're going to stumble across it and you're going to be exposed to it. So if you're going to set that as an expectation, well, I can see why,
Sorry.
you know, but if you were going to do it, you'd have to be out here fighting. You'd have to be relentless in that pursuit. So CHG, this is all just saying, like, the best way for me to deal with toxic negativity is to stop it from entering my reality altogether. And if I can't stop it from physically entering my reality, because it might be something that I'm hearing, might be something that I'm reading, once I've heard it or read it, it's in my reality.
Right.
Now maybe I need to become a much better guardian of how attached I get to that piece of information. So did that information just come in, get recognized, and now it's going into filing? Or did it come in and now I'm adding meaning to it and I'm feeling stuff about it, whatever? So maybe if I can't stop it from physically entering, can I stop it from emotionally and intellectually entering what's going on? You know, that might take a lot more vigilance than, you know, getting so used to it. You've just done, you know, you don't interact with people. Yeah. All right. So thoughts about this? Yeah.
I just think that it's so important and so difficult.
It's very important. And when you first start doing it, it's very difficult. And even when you get good at doing it, it's going to be difficult with certain situations and
I
certain
think
periods of
so,
time.
absolutely.
I mean,
But it's
particularly if it's-
so helpful. God.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's, you know, there's a reason why as humans, we have a space between the green and the red circle. This is where we grow. And there is growth occurring as we even recognize toxicity, and we recognize how that toxicity might affect us and make a judgment about whether or not that's acceptable or not acceptable. This is all very much a growth experience for
Yes.
everyone. You're always growing between, well, how about this? You always have the opportunity to grow between the green and the red circle, but you just stay inside your green circle. You're just going to stay inside your green circle. There's not a whole lot of, what I would say, wrenches getting thrown into your reality. If you're in the green circle, there's not a whole lot of catastrophic, news report. You get the idea? The green circle is a pretty mellow place to be. But it's not where life is necessarily lived.
Well, it's not my personality either.
Well, and it may not be. In fact, I've done, when we start talking about the real metaphysical aspects of living at the center, this idea about really practicing that art of caring detachment and living your life in a way that puts that front and center in things, you do have to kind of recognize that that may not be what the experience of life is all about. And I've probably shared this example before. It's a good example for you guys to share as you encounter the same thing. But I said, a lot of people, when they're out here living life, get to the point they go like, all I want to do is go to a tropical island, sit on the beach and read my book. That's all I want in life, is a quiet place to sit with my thoughts, my reading. And so you decide to go on a vacation. And first day you're out there on the beach, sitting in your chair, reading your book, and everything is wonderful. And the next day you go out there, you're going like, yeah, this is pretty nice. But you start looking around, and by day 3, you're going like, is there nothing else to do on this island? You know what I'm saying? So I don't really know that living this art of caring detachment, living this totally Zen Buddhist, you choose the religion or the shape this might take. I don't know that that's practical. And I don't really know that that's what the human experience is all about.
Hey, would you say that's where mindfulness lives?
Mindfulness is an exercise, I think, to help move people into their green circle. That's a wonderful thing. But can you imagine if someone lived every waking moment of every day in that fully mindful state? Is that practical? Is that likely to happen? Or is the truth like anybody else? They're going to have situations arise that are going to yank them out of
Well,
that.
that's what I would say is that, as they began to encounter life,
Right.
they go outside their front door. The world, the environment pulls them outside of them.
Exactly.
Right, they'd
So-
have to be living in Tibet or have an endless supply of drugs.
Well, there you go, or both.
Yeah.
You do recognize there's lots of people over the course of recorded history who have made attempts to separate themselves from life as the rest of us know it, who might have developed practices around developing the ability to do that, might have created philosophies, even religions that are all focused on this idea about separating yourself from all of the evil that the world contains or all the lack of peace. Stay inside of our Zen kind of understanding. Perhaps there are some people who become so enlightened that they can do that, but I think most people are just on a pursuit to get a taste of that. Even people who practice mindfulness, meditation, any of those sorts of practices, I think that what they actually achieve is measured in moments, probably not even hours, where they can sustain that feeling of bliss. Because life is happening. And I got to believe, even if I'm a monk in some monastery somewhere and I'm living a contemplative lifestyle, we still got to make food. There's
Right.
there's still errands have to be done. This building isn't
Still
going
have to deal with the other monks.
I got to deal with the other monks. Yeah. So life still has to be lived, but maybe they're living it right on the green circle.
So, T, I think one of the things the ChangeGrid shows is how important it is to develop interpersonal skills. I know in performance management conversations, every now and then you get an employee say, I wish they would just leave me alone and let me do my job,
Right.
But you always have to interact with someone, whether it's a coworker, a customer, a vendor. There are people relationships all around us, and some of us manage those interpersonal skills more effectively than others.
Exactly right. And it takes time to learn them. It takes time to develop any kind of fluency, forget mastery.
Right.
It takes a dedicated approach. It's like, okay, you guys know I work out with my trainer and all that, and he says the only thing that ultimately gets you to whatever goal you want is consistency. So whatever it is that you're trying to do in life, consistency is ultimately going to dictate whether you get there or not. So, because how many of us are going to abandon that mindfulness exercise or that journaling thing that we might have been doing, or, fill in any other thing you do, So,
Right, right.
all right. So I don't think that there's anything, problematic at all about this grid or anything for that matter, but I'm very curious to ask David to share with us this. Wouldn't you guys like to know? David, tell
I want to meet him. Yes.
Yeah. All right, so let's do one more. I know it's a couple minutes after, but I want to take a look at a couple of these. So practicing the art of caring detachment. Oh, this one's interesting because it has an interesting ideal location. You should be at the exact center of the change grid for this one. But I've got people who are working really hard at it. So that see it very challenging, even though they have the ability to do it. That means they're actively thinking about caring detachment, which probably means that they feel some attachment, recognize that that attachment may not be serving them particularly well. So they're actively working on detaching themselves from those things to which they have become attached. And again, that could be attitudes, beliefs, behavior, values, practices, whatever it happens to be. So I think that the work is about becoming aware of attachment and then finding a way to comfortably detach from that. Several are plotting in very nice locations. The average individual actually is inside the green circle. But if that's all I was looking at was these two relative positions, I might say we're doing pretty well. And I'm going like, no, I got some people right here that I want them to kind of develop their abilities. I know this is going to sound counterintuitive, but get so good at detaching that it doesn't take much ability to do it at all. It becomes part of a natural state, just a state of being.
Consistency.
You know
Yeah.
something, T?
Yep.
When I think about where I'm plotting at, what comes to mind is when you engage in new opportunities
Yep.
or new clients,
Mhm.
You attach yourself to a lot of things. And so I could see why I'm so far out, because I actively feel that, like I'm analyzing and looking at it, looking at where and how to detach, how long it's going to take to
Yep.
detach, and when can you. It's like having your exit plan, right?
Right,
When you
right.
first start consulting.
When people are really not just learning about tension management, but going through a life cleanup, if you will, this is what they spend most of their time doing. Now that they're aware of stuff, they start to recognize it as it's happening around them. Then they go, I got to deal with this. I got to deal with this. So there's a lot of cleanup that people do. But then obviously you got to be that good guardian. Don't let more stuff in. If you're going to be cleaning it all out, let's not clean it all out and leave the doors and windows wide open. The dust is going to come right back in. So there's work to be done, and that's what it sounds like to me. So I would be saying, like, these people are working particularly hard right now on an activity that I would like to think that sooner or later they're just going to find very normal, natural, kind of a given, a starting point. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what's happening with this one. Shall I do one more?
Yeah.
And
Sure.
Yes, please.
yeah, and honestly, I'd like your feedback on this, but I was actually thinking about making the time on this call officially 90 minutes. I just don't know that I can read anyone's change grid and do it justice, in much less. But there's a lot to be talked about there. Oh, how about this one? Staying inside my green circle. Where are people? Staying inside my green circle. Okay. So do you think that staying inside your green circle should put you outside of your circle? So I'm thinking, just stop doing that. You'll be in your circle. So again, this is really, to me, an indication that we got a bunch of people in our fold here who are working really hard at this, again, this activity, staying inside of my green circle. I mean, 40 some odd weeks ago, did you guys even know you had a green circle? This is learning is happening and awareness is increasing. And now you're getting more engaged. You're executing. That's what's happening right here on these. And that's really, really fine. I would just like to think that the day will come when you guys can be right where we ideally like this task to be. So it's got to become natural. Sometimes you've got to be very deliberate to create a whole new habit and have that habit just become an essential part of who you are. It's all about, well, it's about consistency. It's about consistency.
Mhm.
Well, one last one, I want to just see this for my own. Defining mission critical activities. Well, two of you are plotting a moderate ability to do that. And what you're saying, like, oh no, I can definitely come up with activities. So there is an ability gap here that I'd like to help. You guys become more and more comfortable with crafting the ideal activity list. I do think it's interesting that David's plotted in here, but again, I think it's because David realizes after all the years he's been involved with us that the most difficult part of ChangeWorks is defining those activities. So once you have an activity and people fill out a change grid, you guys should see this by now. Reading a change grid is a rather straightforward sort of a thing. Yeah, there's a lot of questions you want to ask people to make it the tool of conversation it's meant to be, but you go like, no, I get what this is all about. I know, yeah. And learning how to interpret a change grid is easy. It's getting those activities right.
Right.
So I think what I'd like is to say a lot of you are really good at it. And so let's put together kind of an exercise instead of a class, an exercise where we would have a list of activities that are all problematic, each problematic, and have you guys clean it up. That'll help these two individuals very much. And it may very well help you guys recognize that, oh, there's a lot of difference between choosing this verb versus that verb. And yeah. And then I said that was the last one, but I lied. I want to know about how ready you are to use your change grid. View the change grid. Yeah, you're all over the place. And so no one's at the ideal location. No one's really rarely is anybody at the average location. So I got a lot of challenge being reported here. 4 people, everybody thinks it's a 6 or higher. That's fine, but an 8 is as high as we really need it to be. So I got to make this easier for you guys. So you just get really comfortable using that that online tool. And yep, all right, we'll go from there. All right, questions, comments before we're done for now?
No, thanks so much. This is so insightful.
I'm so glad. Now, I'd like you guys to take a look at the rest of your own results. Look at your own results and see where you're plotting. Now, I think I might be wrong. I think you only received a composite change grid, but I could actually send you guys a ChangeWorks report that looks at this activity by activity. So you could see where the ideal locations are for each activity one by one. So you know where you're at. So I might do that because I want you guys to recognize that as we start doing these explorations of the week where everyone's going to have a new change grid every week, that we may never be able to talk about all the activities, and we may never be able to talk about even a couple of the individuals, let alone all the activities as we're reading a group profile. That means you guys need to take it upon yourselves afterwards to apply the knowledge base that you have to looking at your actual results, and then seeing whether or not it's something that needs your energy or not. So I got you to be comfortable with this. I need you to be comfortable doing this. All right. Other questions, comments? All right, we be done for now. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Muchas gracias.
Take care, everybody.
De nada. Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Double donuts.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.